we were treated in the world of boxing to a great chat with Don Charles, trainer of one Daniel Dubois, who sat ringside where Daniel trains, and Spencer set it up, then stayed on, and then Spencer got himself into a very decent one-to-one chat with Daniel Dubois himself. So 5 weeks from the fight, what kind of space do we find Dubois in? That's exactly what Spencer put to Daniel.
Yeah, really excited about it. Couldn't ask for more. This is what I want, and now we're getting it on the big show, and yeah, gonna put it right.
Nearly 2 years ago, the controversy surrounded, was it a low blow, wasn't it a low blow? When you look back on that and reflect on that, what do you think about that fight?
I think nothing about it. It happened, and you know, it's stuff I learned from that experience. But now I'm a different fighter. It's a different new person now, and I'm ready to just yeah, get ready for the greatest victory in boxing.
Would it be fair to say that that fight, I've said this in many interviews, that fight moulded you as a fighter? You know, I think from that fight, you've gone on from strength to strength.
Yeah, of course. You can see in my last 3 fights, and just as going forward, I feel even stronger and getting things right, and just I'm in my prime of my career now, so it's now or never.
Going back to that first Usyk fight, that low blow, was it a low blow, wasn't it a low blow? When you saw him go over on the floor, he didn't seem to be, he wasn't holding down below, he was holding his stomach more, but you saw his legs trembling.
Yeah.
How do you capitalise on that again if that situation happens again?
Listen, I know what I've got to do differently, and if that happened again, if he gets back up, I'll be ready for him, whether it's fighting him, making it a brawl, whatever we have to do, we'll be ready for it.
That was Daniel Dubois in conversation with Spencer Oliver. I'm getting ready for what would be the greatest victory in boxing. It certainly would be, wouldn't it, Ade? Do you think he can do it?
He can, yeah, of course, 100% he can. I mean, I gave him zero chance going to Poland, like no chance whatsoever. I almost thought it was just a formality for Oleksandr Usyk, and yes, obviously the controversial low blow and everything. I thought he'd done okay considering I gave him no chance. This time round, I certainly give him a good chance. He's mentally in a better space. I think he's now got a team built for him. I think we saw that in the background there. Yeah. Everyone in that gym is working for Daniel Dubois. He's not just someone in there getting rounds with people. It's all about the Daniel Dubois show. And he's coming off 3 really good victories. It's a shame we didn't get to see the Joseph Parker fight, because that would have really told us a lot about where he is. But I think he's got a great chance. And Oleksandr Usyk's 38. This is a young man's game. Oleksandr Usyk, for me, is still pound for pound number 1. But 38 is 38. When you're coming up against a prime 27-year-old who has dynamite in both hands. We saw that against Anthony Joshua, who's not afraid of the big stage as well. He's now done Poland. He's done a couple of big shows in Riyadh, Saudi Arabia. He's done 90,000 at Wembley. He's going to walk to the ring with no fear whatsoever. And that's a dangerous, dangerous guy. So, look, I give him a great chance. Usyk favourite, but don't be shocked if Daniel Dubois becomes undisputed heavyweight champion of the world.
I mean, everything, I'm hanging on it, Ade's every word there. And I think, yeah, I think you're right.
Yeah, I mean, this is a whole different animal than the one that fought him previously. Obviously, the victories against Joe O'Miller, Filip Hrgović, and the destruction of Anthony Joshua lend him to a different thought process. He's still got to go and work out this box of tricks that no one has been able to deal with, which is Usyk. If Usyk is at his level, it's going to be a very difficult fight for Daniel Dubois, irrespective of the confidence that he exists through now, because he should do. He's a legitimate world champion. He was a legitimate world champion when he beat Filip Hrgović, in my view, and he didn't need to go and cement that by dealing with Anthony Joshua, but he did, because of the nature of the way that the belts were awarded and the circumstances.
And boy, did he deal with them.
And he did. But Usyk is a different animal. Do I think he can win? Absolutely. It's all about whether he can execute. And there's no doubt that he's got the power. If he lands clean on Usyk, Usyk's going to know about it, and probably not being hit by anyone as hard as Daniel Dubois hits, irrespective of what Anthony Joshua does, irrespective of what Tyson Fury does. Daniel Dubois is in the prime of his career. But this is a remarkably difficult fight, and so it should be. It's an undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. And Daniel Dubois goes into it. I remember watching him. He's talking about him going into the ring again in Poland and going into the ring at Wembley Stadium where 90,000 people were waiting to anoint Anthony Joshua. He is a different animal. I remember watching him walking in with you during COVID, when he walked into the empty auditorium fighting Joe Joyce, and he looked out of sorts. He didn't look comfortable in that environment. Now, maybe that's because there was no crowd there to feed off, but he looked out of sorts and got worked out by Joe Joyce in the end. Yeah. But this is a whole different animal, but he has got a riddle in front of him. And this guy doesn't make it easy for him to hit. Doesn't matter how much Daniel wants to hit him, it's the ability to be able to land clean on Oleksandr Usyk that no one else has been able to do.
You see, I was about to say to both of you, do you both take Dubois to win? But I don't think it's as clean cut as that.
It isn't. No, you've got to take Oleksandr Usyk to win just for the points that.
You've got to take Usyk to win.
You have to, yeah. I mean, he is. We're talking about a generational great. When Usyk hangs it up, we'll be sort of deciding where he ranks as one of the best fighters of all time. That's how good Usyk is. He's never been down, bar that low blow. So yeah, you've got to work that out. And he can take a crack on the chin as well. He has been hit, and no one seems to make him go backwards. But and I keep going back to it. The equaliser here is the age. It's 38. There's a lot of wear and tear on the body, not just as a pro, but as an amateur.
So I don't think that features so heavily with Oleksandr Usyk because I think he's a sublime athlete and the way that he lives his life. The question is about what happens with Dubois when it becomes realistic what's happening in that ring, where Usyk presents him with the same conundrums that he presented him with before. We make a lot about this one shot that caused Usyk a problem in that fight, but that was the one part of the fight that caused Usyk a problem. The rest of the fight was dominated by Usyk.
Yeah, every round.
And the question is now, we saw a particular part of the fight with Anthony Joshua where Daniel dominated the first 4 rounds of the fight. Joshua started to get into the fight and made a bad decision, which opened himself to get knocked out.
Which Usyk won't make.
And so we look at these situations and say, the one thing for me that I think the most telling fight of all tells me more about Daniel Dubois was the Hrgović fight, because that was really digging deep.
Yeah.
That was really coming through adversity and having to really grit down. I know Gerald Miller was a rebuild fight, but Hrgović was the one for me. Joshua was waiting to be knocked out by someone, in my view. I said it. I was the only one that said these 4 fights that Barry Hearn's son wanted to suggest were the rebuild of Anthony Joshua. As soon as someone lands on Anthony, I think he's going to go, and Daniel was the one to land on him.
Okay, we'll talk about Anthony Joshua before we go today. This is one we want to see. We can't wait for it. Dubois against Usyk. But Ade, do you or Simon, do either of you want to see Parker Chisora 3?
No. I normally want to see a third when it's one apiece.
Yeah.
Or if the first 2 fights were really close. And look, Chisora did well in the first fight. I was there, I worked on it.
It's Parker himself who suggested this.
Parker's just desperate to fight anyone.
Yeah.
I mean, Parker, I think, would probably suggest anyone in that top 15 or
Is
top
he
20.
being mistreated in the heavyweight scene?
Yeah, there is a point of that. I mean, we don't know what goes on behind the scenes in terms of fights being offered and maybe turned down because of where he views himself. I think he's the 3rd best heavyweight in the world. He took the Bakoli fight on short notice. Yes, Bakoli took it, but so did he. He took the risk as well and knocked out Bakoli in a couple of rounds. So right now, he should be in a big fight.
He should.
He should be in a big fight. We wanted to see the Dubois fight, didn't we? But you can understand why Dubois has gone to Usyk. I think it should be Parker Cabial.
Me too.
But they're managed by the same person, and sometimes that always gets a bit in the problem as well.
What I would say in defence of the Parker Chisora fight, as much as I'm in the same camp as Ade, I think this would be a better fight than the previous fights, because this version of Parker, since Andy Lee stepped into the equation, is a different animal. He lets his hands go, he gets in range, and we know that he's got the ability. And Chisora is Derek. Derek brings what he always brings.
Yeah.
You know, if from a spectacle point of view, you know you're going to see a fight there.
Yeah.
Whether we want to see it because we've seen 2 before, if it's the only option for Joseph Parker, which seems ridiculous for it to be the case, then I'm not hugely adverse to it. I'm not really interested in boosting Derek's pension fund, but I do think that if that's the fight that can be made, and it's the only fight that can be made for whatever political reasons or opportunity reasons, I wouldn't be sitting there going, absolutely not.
No, of course. Agreed.
Actually, when Usyk was sitting in the very seat that Ade's sitting in, we asked him, what was your toughest fight? And he said, Chisora.
He did.
Yeah, Chisora will give you a hard night's work. And look, to be fair to Chisora, I mean, he's on a run. As much as I keep saying I want Chisora to sort of hang the gloves up, he's on a run right now.
Well, he did what a heavyweight should do to a cruiserweight coming up.
Yeah.
He mauled him and laid all over him.
Right. Before we hit the break, I've got to say this in. Ade, I don't know if you've heard this. I mentioned it briefly to Simon. Eubank Jr., Chris Eubank Jr., on course to run back last month's showdown with Conor Benn in a rematch, maybe in September. Maybe. Nothing confirmed, nothing near being confirmed. But if Eubank Jr. goes in against Benn again, then Eubank Sr. has said he's going to get up to something. Listen to Sr.
He doesn't need to do anything else. He'll never better that performance. There's 2 of us now. There's nothing we can't do. No, don't put it back on the line. In fact, I will use this particular question to try and steer what would be good for us. If you don't get back into the ring, Junior, then neither will I. But if you get back into the ring, then I'm going to fight someone in some exhibition match. I'm putting the pressure on you. You want to see me fight again? Yeah? Okay. Will you take another fight and I'll fight too? Because I'm with you.
What is it about him?
He's 58.
Why does he say us when he references this? Like he had his moment, and we all enjoyed that moment. I mean, that moment, I will never forget it when he opens the car door and it's there and he appears.
Yeah.
That's it. It's fine. We don't need to see you fight. And I mean, this is a Chris Eubank Sr, by the way, who carried on and moved up in weight class, moved up to cruiserweight to have fights. So I don't think he's one to tell his son what to do. Chris will fight again. Chris will make loads of money fighting again. And I think having Senior just there by his side is more than enough. We don't need to see him in the ring.
He can't stay out of it, can he? No, can't. He's always going to poke his nose in.
Hasn't it always been thus? When we had him in the studios, when I did him on Up Front, he's talking about his son as if his son doesn't have a free mind, as if his son should follow the directions that he dictates, and his son's 35 years of age, that whatever I may or may not think about these fights, Chris Eubank Jr. should do precisely what he wants to do.
Oh, God. Nothing fails to amaze me in this crazy sport of boxing.
Welcome.
Addy, what is it like? I'll tell you what we're going to do. When we come back after this, we'll rejoin Spencer Oliver in Ipswich.
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.